What's going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia here, and this is a really exciting episode because, again, it talks on a lot of some of my favorite subjects, which is technology, how we can use it, how it's going to make our lives so much easier, and it also revolves around money to some degree. As a contractor, if you're listening to this show, you're invested in trying to make your business a little bit better. You're trying to find hacks that are going to give you that competitive edge. You're trying to increase your profitability at times by becoming more efficient. And in today's episode, we're going to cover exactly that. And we're also going to be discussing one of the biggest pain points for a lot of us within the restoration arena. And that just so happens to be estimating. So today's episode is all about how to become a much better, much more efficient estimator through the use of technology. And we're going to be talking about actionable insights and their actionable profile, which is, in my opinion, going to be the next thing, the next staple that every single restoration contractor is going to be using at one point or another. So before we even get into the episode, and just in case you don't make it to the very end, which I highly recommend that you do, because we're going to do a screen share and you're going to be able to see this technology in action if you haven't been able to do so already. But there's going to be a link on the video description as well as in the show notes with a very, very special offer so that you guys can take advantage of it. This is exclusively for you dominators out there, for Restoration Domination. It's a very, very special offer that you can go ahead and take this thing for a test drive. In other words, if you're writing an estimate, if you're writing estimates on a somewhat regular basis, you're not going to want to miss out on this. And you're going to want to make sure that you take advantage of it, because this is literally one of these tools that I wish I would have had access to when I got into the business. So it's a really exciting episode. I hope that you enjoy. I know for a fact that if you use or start implementing some of this into your business, you're really going to enjoy it. Here's the other little tidbit that I'm going to tell you about this episode. This is something that, as of right now, is currently being used by some carriers as well. And the reason why I'm even mentioning this is because this just goes to show how much this particular software is going to, or an extension of the software, is going to be able to kind of level the playing field. We cover tons of great information in this podcast. Harrison is such an amazing guest. And without further ado, literally, we just got off. Really excited about sharing this episode with you, because this is one of those arenas where there's a lot of questions about estimating. There's a lot of questions about how you can increase your profitability, or how you can reduce the back and forth with the carrier and just create a more coherent experience, not only for you, but the carrier as well as the customer. So it's an amazing episode. I really had a blast spending an hour with Harrison, just taking a deep dive into this whole thing. I know that you're going to go ahead and get some value off this episode. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's go.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
All right, what is going on, my dominators? Let's get ready to dominate. Today we got something really cool. It's about tech. So anything revolving tech and how it makes our lives a little bit easier. As you guys know, I am 100% behind that. So first things first, man, welcome to the show. You ready to help us dominate?
I am ready.
Let's go. So for those that may not be familiar with the face and the name, give us a quick little 1-2 intro as to who you are, what you do.
Seth Harrison, Executive Director over at Actionable Insights. Actionable Insights is a 501c6 nonprofit. We're a trade association for the property insurance industry. We want to make the insurance industry better. There's a lot of broken issues, a lot of problems in the property insurance industry. I think the founding mission of Actionable was actually to help people find the space to fall in love with their jobs again. There's a lot of times that contractors and adjusters wake up every day going to war. They put on the battle paint, the battle mask, the battle helmet. They go out to the claim. They write the estimate, and their only goal is to do good work and take care of the customers that invite them into their home. And so, with so much friction in a $200 billion industry, there's got to be ways that it can be better, that people can enjoy their space. You want to talk about technology and efficiency. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there for people to do things differently and to do things that have never been done before. But without exploring those options, without taking the time to understand what is possible, how are people doing things differently, should I be doing them? That's what I'm here to explore with you today, Rico. Like, let's understand why we do things the way we do them, because if we cannot speak the value of our process, then the people that work for us and around us don't understand why they do what they do, and we don't even know what the outcome's going to be if nobody understands the value of the process.
100%. So let's just kind of put this into context as to, because one of the first things, we were kind of talking about this off camera, right, is the veteran restoration pro that maybe's got a fairly decent sized organization to large organization to the new guy that is literally just looking to get into the business today. They haven't even done their first dry out project yet, right? So sometimes they hear about a lot of products and, bells and whistles, and they ask themselves the question, who is this for? Like, am I even ready for this kind of technology, this kind of service? So before you even get into the weeds of what you guys actually do and what the product and service is, let's answer that question for, like, who is this for? Is it only for the big guys, or is it for the small guys, or should it really be something that's adopted throughout the entire industry, and why?
You're talking about actionable insights?
Correct.
You're talking about the actionable profile? I mean, Actionable Insights as a company is the hardest thing to define in my career. Rico, I've worked here. This has been my job for the last 5 to 6 years. It'll be my job for the next 20 years. I'm not going anywhere because this industry has a lot of opportunity for things to solve. When we're talking about the actionable profile, man, Rico, this is the thing that we have finally built. It's the thing that everybody's always been asking for to be built. It's something that should have always existed, but it did not before. It is for everyone. If you use Xactimate, this is for you. If your team uses Xactimate, this is for your team. If you're writing estimates in Xactimate, it was designed to make you better. It's designed to make every estimate you create better. This is a fun journey, Rico, for me to talk about. When I joined Actionable Insights about 5 or 6 years ago, still relatively fresh to the industry, I started in this industry as a program estimator, writing specifically for nationwide claims. And what I quickly learned was all the things you can't do.
Right.
All I ever wanted to know is what you can do or what you should be doing. It wasn't until 2016, about 7 years ago, that I took my first Xactimate training class from a gentleman named Watley, who I believe you may know. And he taught me all the things you can do in Xactimate. As an Xact certified trainer, he knew what he was talking about. He had owned multiple restoration businesses. He'd been an estimator. He had done all of it before. And he actually knew, what is the industry standard? How should I be doing what I'm doing? And so that, to me, was fascinating. And in 2016, I bought Watley a beer. I told him, I'd like to work for you at the end of that class. And about 4 months later, he hired me. And one of the reasons I wanted to change is that Watley introduced me to some new technology. We say new technology because I don't think it's new anymore, but it was new back then to many. Rico, what do you know about Matterport?
I know enough to be dangerous about Matterport. I know that more people should be using Matterport. That's one thing that I certainly know.
That's fair. I don't even know if Matterport is the solution for everyone, but the technology that makes Matterport relevant is relevant to everybody in the industry.
Correct.
It's geospatial scanning, the ability to 3D scan a property and create a digital twin, a digital model of what that property looks like. And then from that digital model, you can generate measurements, you can generate floor plans, you can generate sketches. I mean, there's an incredible, you can settle a claim entirely remotely without actually ever stepping foot into a building through 3D models and digital twins. Whether that's Matterport, whether that's DocuSketch, whether that's any other of the platforms that are out there, there's new technology out there that makes things possible. And Rico, when I came back from that Xactimate training class in 2016 to go back to my old contractor here in San Diego, I was super excited about new technology. Here was something that was different, that I know would help me in my role. And the owners I worked for at the time basically said, nope, not interested. That's different, not relevant to us, and we're no thank you. And I wanted to be able to engage with the ownership more. I wanted to be able to understand why. Well, why is the way you do things important to you? We never had that conversation.
Right.
What is it about this new technology that isn't relevant to your process? We never had that conversation. So it's part of why I wanted to go join Actionable Insights. It was the first ever employee, the first ever salaried employee on staff here at Actionable. We had the opportunity to build things that have never been built before. In 2017, Watley and I co-wrote and published a 3,000-page book of Xactimate invoicing templates. This is really strange to me, Rico. Do you realize we don't have a standard of invoicing in property insurance?
Right.
Like, I think it was Mike. I'm sorry, Brandon White. You had on recently, the IH out of Phoenix.
Yep.
In one of your previous episodes. By the way, that guy knows his stuff. Props to him. That was a fantastic episode to listen to.
He's an amazing guy. Yep.
Dude, he commented on something where almost everybody in this industry is self-taught or peer-taught, and we're generally taught when we come into the industry. And I found that to be fascinating because it's exactly what I see as a trainer. What Actionable has been doing for the last 4 to 5 years is we fly around the country and we work with the top contractors of property insurance. Probably worked with like 75% of the top 50 contractors around the country at this point. And we look to implement new technology. We look to help them understand the value of this new technology. But so many people don't understand the value of their process. And so many people were taught something 20 years ago. And unless you have somebody near you that was taught it recently or taught something differently recently, you're just going to keep teaching everybody else what you learned 20 years ago. It's why education continues to be so important in property insurance, but education is not necessarily something that everybody in property insurance loves. Right. Those that swing hammers didn't necessarily love going to school every day. But that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the aspect of getting better at what we do and seeing the better outcomes of what happens when we get better at what we do.
Yeah. And also how getting better, right, increases profitability. Now, a lot of people stretch what that means. Like, could they just hear it, they take it at face value and be like, well, what do you mean trying to stretch profitability? You mean you're trying to pad your invoices more? You're trying to make more money? No. Saving money or saving time is increasing profitability.
Yes.
Right. So if you become more efficient, if there's a better, faster, sweeter way of being able to get something done, well, you've increased your profitability, right? Your rate per hour, per minute, however it is that you want to break it down, that's gone up now, right? If you're having less discussions and less back and forth and less banter with whether that's a customer or an insurance company or more, whoever the parties may be, if you have less back and forth, well, because of how efficient you are, like ultimately that's a great business decision, right?
That is the intangible cost of what it takes to settle a claim after the first estimate has been submitted. The back and forth, the clarifying, the negotiating, the intangible costs. Those are the costs that are hardest to solve and I think are the hardest to absorb overall. Rico, one fascinating thing I have found. Are you familiar with the one marshmallow study? The Stanford study back in the day?
No, is that the one with the kids?
Yes. Okay. Kids were given the opportunity. You put a marshmallow in front of them. They said, if you wait 10 minutes and you do not touch this marshmallow, we will give you a second marshmallow. And about, let's just say, half the kids ate the marshmallow right away. And then the other half of the kids waited the 10 minutes and got the second marshmallow and ate both.
Right.
Then the study continued to study these kids for over the next 20 years of their life, for 40 years of their life. What they determined is that if you are able to abstain from immediate satisfaction and you're able to be what we now call internally a 2 marshmallow kid, right? I want 2 marshmallow kids around me. I want 2 marshmallow kids in my business. I want the people that are able to stay away from the short-term gains and look at the long-term benefit of their decisions. If you can embrace the 2 marshmallow mentality, then you have a good opportunity to look at your process and to understand why you do things the way you do them. This is why I find it fascinating that we don't have a standard of invoicing. Everybody's taught something different. Everybody's taught something that's unique to the person that taught it to them. Even I, myself, am a bit of a clone of Watley, and Cole Marding, my right-hand man here at Actionable, will eventually be some form of clone of me. I mean, we all try to do our best to build up those behind us. I think it was Eugene Hicks in one of your recent episodes, it was talking about the importance of letting your people shine and be the hero, not yourself.
Exactly.
So we all want to have someone that we can mentor, someone that we can teach, but are we confident that we taught them the right thing and that we were taught the right thing? It seems like for most of the people on, at least recently on your podcast, had some kind of traumatic experience that inspired them to learn the skills or the tool, or to develop the tools that they needed to succeed, that they're happy to share with others. That's, I guess, a part of, I don't have, thankfully, Rico, I don't have any traumatic experience to share with you today that got me where I am.
Right.
Other than just trying to understand this industry and its inefficiencies. What can be done as a 501c6 educational nonprofit to have an impact on both contractors and carriers, and ultimately the policyholders that we all work for.
Right. And that's a great point, right? One of the things that and again, I am like Switzerland, right? Like I'm totally neutral. I don't really have a horse in the race one way or another. There's a lot of people that are anti-program work. There's people that are pro, independent. And my position is, look, you're going to find your niche within any market. Do what makes you happy, do what you're built for, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing, right? There's a lot of this us versus them mentality, but at the end of the day, like, everybody's got their role to play, right? You can't have the good with the bad, like, not everything can be roses and rainbows. And the faster that we understand that, the better it is, right? But ultimately, your customer is the one that we really need to be looking out for, right? In whatever capacity that is, whether it's doing the best mitigation job that you could possibly ever do. And then the other non-tangible aspect of that is, how quickly can we get this totally resolved? Because one thing is getting the mitigation out of the way. That's great. The other part is, how long do they have this hovering over their head that you're still haven't collected your money, that you this and that, the back and forth with the insurance company, like all of that. That's another stress factor that, again, it might be smaller for some, greater for other customers, but it's still out there. So the common goal, in my opinion, should always be like, how can we make this experience as smooth for the customer, which then now goes back to, well, what do I need to learn? What do I need to, get better skills at so that I can make that possible for the customer, right?
Yeah. I love this idea. Let's frame this entire next section around the customer experience, because you asked, what do I want to come on here? What, as a business entrepreneur, as a peer of many in the industry, what can I provide from my position? What kind of things can I focus on? I've had the pleasure of flying around the country for the last 5 years. And as a prerequisite of entering anybody's business, and I want to clarify right now, we at Actionable are not consultants. We are educators. We're not here to tell people what to do. Once you've decided on the direction of your business, you call Actionable to help train and implement the solutions that you've already decided on. We're not the ones that are going to be there telling you what solutions to implement. But if you want to know more about what's possible, we're really good at explaining what's possible. So let's talk about the customer experience, because that should be number one to most. One thing I have found, and I have asked business owner after business owner after business owner, it's a one word question, Rico. Why?
Right.
Why? And I don't mean to be the annoying 5-year-old kid in your backseat that's probably half listening to this while you are as well. Like, I mean, like, why do you do things the way you do them? Can you explain the value of your process? One thing that Eugene Hicks said on the recent episode was talking about the purpose. It was talking about your mission statement, your value, your purpose. I have seen companies that can have memorized it. Every employee, from owner to janitor, can spit out the mission statement and values like that. I've met companies where not a single person knows what their mission statement is as a company. So it's quite a dichotomy between those two. But the one thing that should be universal for every business owner, if you want to dominate your space, you want to dominate your company, you want to dominate it all, you need to understand why you do things the way you do them.
Right.
And I found that the more I ask people why, the less focused the answers get. Because when you first ask the question, why does the handoff between mitigation and repair work that way? There will be an answer, but often the answer will be rooted in some form of, well, it's kind of the way we've always done it.
Right.
And I hate this cliche. I mean, there's so many tropes and cliches when it comes to being an educator, being a consultant. There's so many of these phrases, right? But there's truth in all of them. And it really depends on how you listen to and how you apply these various phrases. But if I ask you a question, why do you do it this way? And your only answer is because we've always done it this way, stop. Stop right
Right.
there. If you, as a business owner, cannot explain the value of your process, that means your employees have no chance of being able to understand the value of the process. And if nobody understands the value of why we do things, then we're not sure what outcome is going to come out of it. And what is that customer experience like when you have a team that doesn't know why they do the things they do? It doesn't work for anybody. The companies I've been most impressed by are the ones that constantly reevaluate their process. They're asking a few questions in succession, and they do not move on to a new topic until those questions are answered. Question number one, why are we doing it that way? Should be a simple one, but take a moment as a business owner, whether it's pausing this podcast for a moment, pick a problem at your business. Something that you know is a problem, whether it's a problem to the people you work for, a problem of the process, something's not working in general, regardless of who's involved. Think about that process for a moment and ask yourself, why are we doing it that way? So question number one. Question number two, answer it. First of all, answer that question to your own satisfaction. Question number two is, should we still do it this way? That might be yes, that might be no. I have seen very outdated old processes that, quite honestly, Rico, are the right way for that company to do it. Sometimes it just takes a moment to reevaluate that process and to be able to say, yes, I think this is the right way because X, Y, and Z value. If you can explain the value, great. Number three, question, how are others doing it? What do they know that we don't? This is a big one for me because I found this industry to be a little niche-y, but very FOMO driven. Like
Yes.
everybody wants to know the next thing. Like, I got this thing, dude. You got to check out the solution. It's amazing. Everybody wants to be that person that knows the thing. But at the same time, a lot of them want to keep it quiet for a couple months at least so that they can have a competitive advantage. But then all of a sudden, once that competitive advantage is done, it becomes rising tide raises all boats. Everybody's got to have this. Let's all get on board.
Right.
And so it's very niche-y in that sense.
I don't know, but it's to just kind of add on to that and also play devil's advocate. It's like,
yes.
On the flip side of that, this industry is also very much behind as far as what is happening outside of the industry in and of itself. So, for example, like what are other people doing, right? That big question, like, why are we doing it this way? Great. Can we answer it? What are other people doing? Sometimes no one's looking outside of the industry to see other things that are really, really working well. And I see this in the adoption of technology. There's like almost this disconnect between labor and the service type business and the wanting to adopt new pieces of technology. Maybe it's overwhelmed, maybe because there's all these new companies that are sprouting out all the time, but that's part of it too. I mean, do you see some of that happening as well, where it's like you do have this segment of the market that's like, I want the newest, fastest, greatest thing that can go ahead and get me results, and then you also have people who are like, I don't want to learn any new tricks.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. And I think where this stems, Rico, is carriers and program work, especially over the last decade, have mandated new softwares and platforms upon contractors. If you want our work, if you want to process our claim, you need to use Mika. You need to use Xactimate. You need to use Symbility. You need to use, and there's been kind of just an inundation of software that you're maybe not forced to use, but highly encouraged to use. Often it comes from ownership. Ownership makes a decision. Hey, owners out there, advice, please ask your employees to get their buy-in when you're going to implement a new software and a new system. Nobody enjoys being told that they're going to be doing this, an extra step, especially if you want to tie that into, do they understand the value of that extra software, that extra platform, that extra step that you're adding? So before you go and decide to implement new technology and new things, make sure the people that are going to be using it have a chance to get their eyes on it. Even if they say no, I mean, Rico, we at Actionable have walked into hostile training environments where the owners literally told us, we want to move forward with Matterport. Everybody at our company says no. Good luck. Like
right.
go succeed, right? Go, good luck trying to convince everybody. But
Right.
there's an aspect here where when we're talking about embracing new technology, when somebody is stubborn, when somebody is saying, no, I don't want that, or, there's a lot of old dogs in this industry that are not really excited about the new tricks that are out there. How do you get them excited? And one thing I found in my youthful years that's going to help me for the next 30 to 40 for sure, people are incentivized by very different things. And those incentivizations change over time as your needs as an individual or a family change. I've met the 20 to 30-year-old working tech that, only wants more money. They're about to have their second kid. Their only focus is more money. If you create programs and processes where they can be incentivized to get more money, then they'll succeed in that environment. On the flip side, one of my favorite all-time stories, there's a dude in South Carolina. He's about 64 years old. He's been estimating for longer than I've been alive. So I got to give him some respect because he knows his trades. He knows his stuff. This guy originally, when he heard about remote technology like Matterport, being able to write an estimate from his office and not on the job site, he's like, no way. Not going to work with me. I've been doing this for 30 years, 40 years. I can't. No. All I had to do was explain to him that you'll have the ability to still go to the job site if you want to, but when you do, you'll already have all the job information from that 3D scan that somebody else performed. Not even you performed it. One of your juniors performed it, and you're able to write off of that. He immediately made the connection to, are you telling me that I can now write my estimates from my fishing boat? And I said, yes.
Absolutely.
Like, do you see it now? This technology gives you the opportunity to apply it how you want to. Right. His only goal was he wanted Fridays off. He wanted more fishing as he was going into his retirement. His incentivization was, give me more of that. Give me more time. And that is an amazing
goal. It's an admirable goal.
So that's why I think it's important to look at these processes of why you do things the way you do them. And then you can start bringing in the Eugene Hicks of the world and start looking at the people in those roles and systemizing those processes. But if you don't have the ability to define the value of your process, and if the only answer is because we've always done it that way, that's a problem. And you touched on something that I want to build on with this idea of insurtech. I've heard this phrase insurtech for a decade, dude. I don't know what it means. Nobody knows what it means. It's insurtech. Like it's all engrossing of everything. So when you talk about, hey, do we take the time to look outside of our own industry, see what other solutions are coming? It's definitely we don't, right? Because we have a problem: speed, urgency. Everything in this industry is built around speed and urgency. Right. Even Eugene was talking about it coming from the service master world of program work. You have 24 hours to submit your initial estimate. Then you have 72 hours to submit. And everything by design is rushed. Everything is hurried. And I find I'm an Xact certified trainer. So I get the privilege of sitting in rooms of other Xactimate certified trainers. And we have a problem, Rico, in this industry. It's the battle between speed and accuracy. If you are an entrepreneur and you're listening to this episode and you can find a solution that somehow improves both speed and accuracy on behalf of contractors and carriers, you have a winning product. That's it. Right. That's the battle that everybody's trying to fight every day. Figure out, how can I do it faster and how can I do it better? Because carriers want it fast. Contractors want it accurate. Everybody wants a little bit of both, right. But those two dynamics are incredibly hard. To do it accurately often takes time. So they're often like fighting each other as goals, like speed and accuracy. So like we don't have standards. Things are inefficient. People don't always understand their processes. And so this is why I just like to remind everybody, it is good to take the time. There's the ultimate cliche, which I do like saying, it's better. You need to work on your business, not in your business. Rico, I know you're big on that, right? You like being able to take a step away from your business and to think about, what are the business problems? What are the possible solutions? How are others doing it? That's what we do at Actionable, man. Our goal is to play with everything that we can play with.
Yep. Like tinker, figure out what's working, what's not working, what's efficient, what's not.
Most business owners don't have the time to pay attention. Like we get it. Like this car ride that they're listening to this podcast is the most they'll spend today on investing in themselves and in their business. And by golly, it's a great way to actually just to take the mental time to think about your business in any capacity is important.
Right. Exactly. 100%
so-
agree, man. And so that being said, now, and this might be the good segue into, what, the actionable profile really is and what it has the capacity to do. But before we jump into that, I want to throw this question out there, which is, you were talking a lot about, standardization or having some kind of a uniform way of invoicing, right? Do you think that that's possible, right? Because when we're talking about a standard fashion of invoicing, part of my brain is like, well, you get 50 different contractors with 50 different business models for all intents and purposes. And what I mean by business model, we're talking about company culture, what's important, profitability, overhead. All of these things matter, and they influence the culture of that individual business, right? So you're going to have almost inherently built in 50 different ways of invoicing, 50 different ways of doing things, right? But then on the flip side of that, especially when we're dealing with carriers, and the majority of restoration companies are in fact dealing with carriers in one capacity or another, well, now you've got a whole other set of values and dynamics that they're looking at, right? Where they're, saying, well, you know what? I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. And then even further, there's this other third group, right? Which is the third party reviewers, right? Like the, people that are slicing and dicing your estimate. So even though this sounds like utopia, is that like a possibility?
I mean, the immediate answer is no.
Right.
However, I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with 40 of the top 50 contractors. I have seen multiple estimates from those companies. They're always different. In fact, it's a great thing to put yourself in an adjuster's shoes, in a carrier's shoes. You can work with the same company 10 times and you'll receive 10 different estimates from the same person that are formatted slightly different choice of line items, different justifications, then go from here's the $50 million shop with a team of 12 estimating to here's the $2 million shop with 3 employees. Then you got to deal with that estimate in their style. Dude, it's wildly different, but it's incredibly inefficient.
Right.
And if there is no standard of invoicing and carriers are taught one thing and contractors are taught a different thing, all this means is everybody's going to fight for the rest of time. And it doesn't matter what invoicing software you use. It doesn't matter the efforts by that platform to clarify how to use their software. People are just going to decide what something means for themselves, and they're just going to fight tooth and nail until somebody gives way or somebody does something, as you said, like padding and fraudulent. We've added, Rico, this is something I think is very true. We've added 20% administrative burden to every claim to reduce 5% of fraud.
Right.
Everybody works harder. You got to document more. You got to justify more just to do what you were already going to do in the first place. And oftentimes, I mean, if you want to do another episode in the future, we can talk about the history of this industry and why nobody was supposed to, nobody should be negotiating their repair estimates. It was never designed to be negotiating. Everybody was supposed to own their own house. Everybody was supposed to have 20 grand in the bank account to be able to pay the contractor's bill right away. Then they file the claim. Then the carrier reimburses them based on something that's already been signed and paid. Like that's how it was all supposed to go down. But we only have, an hour today. So I can't get into the history of this industry, which, it's fascinating where we've been and where we're going in that sense. So
that's awesome.
To continue here, you want to segue into the profile? Like, I mean, how do we?
So that was going to be the next thing, right? Because I think this is going to be the perfect entry point to really kind of highlight. I want to say, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys' version of attacking that or trying to make that a reality through actionable profile, which to me, and you and I have had the ability to kind of talk off camera a little bit. And we've done so a few times in the past. There's some information that you guys have already put out there. I've kind of been like the fly on the wall, just kind of saying like, oh, this is really cool stuff. Like this could really change the game. And that's what I think like our audience is really going to be interested in. But before we do that, let's just take a quick break. Let's go ahead and thank our sponsors and then we'll be right back. back. Hey, real quick, are you a restoration pro looking to hire top talent inside of our industry? We all know that labor shortages are real, but I may have a solution for you, okay? And that is Wylander. Why? Well, very simple. They are the go-to recruiting company inside of the restoration arena. Well, the reason I say that is very simple. They've got proofs in the pudding. They've got over 1,000 placements in all 50 states, plus Canada. And what that means is that they not only have the expertise, but more importantly, they have the connections to find that top industry talent that you and your team are looking for. So stop wasting time. Stop sifting through tons and tons of resumes and just conducting endless interviews. Let Wylander do the heavy lifting for you and help you find that right person to help your company succeed. Call Wylander today and start building that dream team inside of the restoration arena. Hey, Dominators, real quick, let me ask you a question. Have policyholders struggled to come up with your money because it's held with the mortgage company? Or does the percentage of uncollected debt that you collected in 2021 exceed over 2.5%? Or even better, let me ask you this. Do you dread negotiating with your policyholder when it comes time to collect your final payment and deductible? So look, if you answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to check out Surety. You see, Surety is a third-party fund control company. And what they do is they ensure that you get paid faster and, more importantly, completely for the hard work that your crews are doing. Surety relieves not only the policyholder, but you of tremendous administrative burden while ensuring that the claims process, and more importantly, the proceeds flow via ACH to the rightful owner, you, the restorer. And here's the best part. For less than the average credit card fee, Surety delivers on numerous fronts. So here's what I want you to do. If you want to learn more about how Surety can help you, I want you to head on over to www.surety.com/dominate and request a free demo today. Now listen, Restoration Domination listeners, just like you, are going to receive a really cool offer. And here it is. You're going to receive an exclusive offer, which includes free processing for the first insurance claims check and 3 months of free access within their network. Again, that's Surety, SURETI.com/dominate. Hey, Dominators, real quick, let me ask you a question. How would you like to increase productivity? How would you like faster claims resolution? And more importantly, how would you like to reduce litigation? Well, this is exactly what Impartial allows you to do. Impartial creates timely, accurate estimates for faster and fair claim settlement. Building upon Matterport's technology, the Impartial Scope tool extracts the relevant data embedded with pre-mitigation and post-mitigation scans and subsequently renders an Xactimate or assimilability estimate that can be approved by a carrier without any hesitation. The magic here is that the software helps contractors generate mitigation and repair estimates for more rapid approval from insurance carriers while removing the burdensome administrative process. Each Impartial estimate is produced with objective accuracy using immersive 3D imagery and precise physical and geospatial measurements. Impartial, in my opinion, is one of those tools that simply can go ahead and change your business. And with so many features such as Impartial tags, timestamp matter tags, the ability to upload JPEG, PNG, ESX, and so much more. Impartial is that software that could genuinely change your business. Make sure that you check them out in the video description below or in the show notes and see for yourself. All right, and we're back. So we left it off talking about actionable profile. Take it away, Harrison. Just give us a skinny. Like, people already got like 30 minutes invested here. We got the backdrop. We kind of got a little bit of the landscape of what the business is really all about. Some of the growing pains that a lot of us have experienced. Like, at this point, we're like, fuck, what's the solution? Like, what's going to get me closer to that?
Let's take a look at your estimating process as a company. If you have a team, either one person or 1,700 people writing estimates for you, and you're using the Xactimate software, what we have built will apply to you and your team. When I started estimating, Rico, as a young man, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I didn't have many resources around me that would guide me to tell me if I was estimating correctly or estimating incorrectly.
Correct.
Often it came down to who's the most experienced guy in the room, and does he have enough time to take a break from his own work to give me guidance for 30 minutes to 60 minutes. What we've built in the actionable profile, we have started mapping out the line items in the Xactimate price list, how they interact, how they function, what line items are supposed to be used together, what line items would be mutually exclusive. These are the things that we have tried to capture over the years in curriculum and content we've put out previously. If you followed Actionable Insights in 2017, you loved the Insight Sheet database and the ability to review invoicing templates to know what line items should I be using if I'm trying to invoice for this activity. What kind of F9 note do I need to justify this line item to get it approved or to explain its inclusion to an adjuster? Then some of you may have actually even explored our 2018 algorithms. We had two, and one audit algorithm, one edit algorithm around estimates. So you throw 100 estimates through an algorithm, you start to notice some patterns. And in 2018, we published what we called the commonly overlooked line item database, right? Here's a list of 200 plus line items that we've determined are frequently warranted but overlooked. Now, over the past 2 years, we've actually gotten the opportunity to build the thing I always wish existed, which is a profile in Xactimate. So when you're starting a project, you're starting an ESX to write your invoice in Xactimate, you decide, what profile do I want to work in? Carrier profile, contractor profile, or the actionable profile. And in the actionable profile is live estimating guidance that reacts to your scope while you write it. Now, why is this important, Rico? We've had kind of like when you hit complete in an Xactimate estimate at the end, you have the ability to, a couple things will pop up that says, hey, you've done this wrong, you've done this wrong. Those are what we call overage alerts. They're looking for mistakes. They're looking for things that you shouldn't be doing. And we've had a little bit of that guidance over the years in Xactimate. But what we've never had in Xactimate is omission guidance. What line items did I not include that I probably should include before I finish this scope of work?
Right.
That, to me, is the number one thing that has been missing when it comes to education, when it comes to estimating. And we've seen companies like QA Assist and Ask Amy have blossomed over the last 2 to 3 years as external third-party estimate audit platforms where you can send them your estimate and they'll review it and send you back a report that you can then act on. Here's where the actionable profile is different. Our guidance is in Xactimate already. You don't need to leave the software. So as you are writing your scope of work, whatever scope you're writing, whether it's mitigation, whether it's repair, whether it's internal, whether it's external, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, doesn't matter, whatever price list you're using, we have rules and what we call actionable alerts that are going to help guide every single estimate you write, regardless of what you're covering. That's the beautiful part. One thing, one of our colleagues, I was having a conversation with him recently, and he noted, weren't you just going to start with the Insight Sheet database? Like, weren't you just going to take your invoicing templates that you published in 2017 and 18 and 19? Weren't you just going to map those in? And quite honestly, the answer was yes. The scope of this project started quite narrow. And then we realized
as
what
most projects do, right?
Yeah. But
like,
we
this will be simple, quick.
Right. Well, there's 87 categories.
Right.
Drywall, paint, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, right, in Xactimate. And so we decided, why stop at a few? Why not write guidance for every single category in Xactimate? So here's what happens now, Rico. You start writing an estimate in Xactimate. Let's say you start writing a water mitigation invoice. You include a line item for equipment. On the right side, a little notification comes up. You've included equipment, but you have not included the time to set up, break down, and monitor that equipment yet.
Right.
Don't forget to include that.
Right.
Boom. So then you include that. Hey, you have included both equipment and the time to set it up. You might need floor protection in this loss as well.
Right.
Right. That's the kind of potential omission guidance that has never existed. And so if you have a newer estimator, somebody that's newer, I'd say been estimating for less than a year, this actionable profile is going to guide their estimates to better outcomes. One of the things we talk about when we train at Actionable Insights, to be a good repair estimator, what's the classic trope? You need 10,000 hours in anything to be an expert in it,
Right.
right? To be a good repair estimator, you needed about 10 years of repair experience. And I heard Eugene Hicks talk about this recently when he's like, I can take anybody, turn them into a mitigation invoicer in 30 days.
Right.
Because mitigation works off the same 1 to 2,000 line items every scope, and it's pretty repetitive. But repair and the uniqueness of every property when it comes to repair and the weird stuff that people did when they were building properties in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
I mean, it takes mastering and expertise to be able to write a good repair scope. And so what we've been able to do at Actionable, you essentially have multiple Xactimate certified trainers that have put everything they know about Xactimate into our guidance. We're going to make sure that you don't make mistakes. We talk about the intangible cost of an estimating mistake, right? I think I read a report recently. The average claim, the average scope of work is revised 3.7 times before it is settled and agreed on. That's wildly inefficient. I mean, there should be one round of revisions, maybe two if somebody's really not good at estimating. But we've got 3.7, goes to carrier, goes back, goes to carrier, goes back, goes to carrier, goes back. Then finally I get something settled. So, by the way, the golden rule of all claims, doesn't matter if you're a contractor or you work at a carrier, the longer a claim is open, the more expensive it gets.
Right.
So that's another reason why speed is important in these things. Rico, I challenge a lot of people to think about this. If you could do 5% more work up front and reduce 40% of the back and forth, is that worth it to you as a company?
100%.
Right? Do 5% more. But do you understand how hard it is for people to actually dedicate that 5% more up front? Because
especially under
so
this
focused.
context, especially under this context, right? Because now, again, actionable profile aside for a second, in order to achieve that 5%, either the access to expertise that you need to have, especially if you're a newer estimator, you need to find that connection, or you really need to drown yourself in the literature and the experience and everything else in order for you to even put yourself in a position to gain that 5%, right? So what I'm hearing, and there's a lot of hum online and just in overall in the technology industry about AI, right? Like everybody's talking about AI. The way that I'm looking at this is, well, look, you basically have a system in place, right? That is like your artificial intelligence. It's your immediate assistant, your immediate professor, this expert in the industry that is saying, hey, by the way, you just put this in the line item. I don't know if you know this or not, but hey, you might want to check this off the box. Did you forget about this? And look, I've had estimates as like a pro where I'm like, doing drywall repair, and guess what was missing from the line item, from the estimate? The drywall repair. Like it's like, insanity. And you're like, well, how could you possibly miss something like that? Because you're human and because you just kind of were going at your own rate. But now if you had your professor, right, this artificial intelligence or this thing that has already read and understood and has really dissected each and every single line item, how it pertains to one another, and what's mutually exclusive, what's not, and then just adds that reminder to you, which like, hey, by the way, you should add this, or maybe you forgot about this. Like how much money would it cost for you from a consult? Let's talk consulting for a second.
Sure.
Like how much money would it cost me to hire a consultant who can provide me with those kind of skills, which by the way is on demand 24/7 whenever I'm writing an estimate?
The answer is $350 to $750 an hour.
Right. And you're not going to find that, because if you're writing an estimate at 11 o'clock at night and you need to know right now, you're not going to get that, right? You're not going to get a hold of that. But now that's the power of technology, right? So now we kind of have like this, is that the right way of looking at it? Like really what Actionable Profile has the ability to do? I mean, is that a good visual for what it is and what it can mean to me as an estimator and as a business owner?
Would you like an expert set of eyes on your scope of work? Before 100%. You submit it to a customer, before you submit it to a carrier, before you submit it to a vendor, would you like to have somebody that knows what they're doing take a look at your work? Because that's essentially what the Actionable Profile is doing. It's what I always wanted as a younger learning person. If you have a newer estimator on your team, you want to show them that you're willing to invest in their success, set them up with the Actionable Profile, because the profile is actively telling them what they should or should not be doing, which is a good direction. That means we're not actually sucking up the other people that we've already hired that have their own responsibilities, right? We want to train up the new people. We want them to be good, but they inherently will suck the resources and knowledge out of the people around them. Can we provide them with a tool that makes the end outcome of every scope they write better, also trains them every time they use it? Those are hard solutions to find and hard solutions to scale, but that's what the Actionable profile has done. Would you like an expert to double check every single one of your Xactimate scopes before they go out? If your answer is yes, then the Actionable profile is a solution you need to check out. Like Cole and I, as we onboard and we did a closed beta for 6 months, we took a ton of feedback from people around, hey, what do you like about the Actionable profile? What do you like about the guidance that it's providing? What features do or do not exist that you would like? This is important to note, Rico. This is not like just our product, right? We work with Verisk to develop our profile in their software. At times it's great, and at times it's frustrating because we work quickly, man. If I could just make something happen on behalf of my user base, I would do it. But there's also a huge complex network over at Verisk that it's important for them to do all the checks and balances every time you're adding a new feature and adding a utility. Right. This week in January will be the biggest update to the Actionable profile in the last 6 months. In fact, it's going to be released later this afternoon, and I'll be playing with this new update all day today, Rico. So everything that has been challenging about the Actionable profile for people to use before January 2023 was essentially fixed today. Nice. So this is part of why I'm very excited to get on with you today to talk about the solution, because it really is a solution that applies to everybody. So I've talked a lot about you have newer estimators, new people on your team. I also want to highlight the importance that this plays for your most experienced people, because to me, there are line items in Xactimate that I will use once in my career, and then I will forget about them, and I will never use them again, but I may have needed them 17 other times. If you're an experienced estimator, it's easy to get in a routine and to knock out a scope of work you've written before, but you might forget the add-on accessory line item for this. You might forget the add-on accessory line item for that. What the Actionable profile is going to do, it's going to help remind you every time you're writing your scope, hey, don't forget about this. Based on the line items you've used thus far, it seems like you're invoicing for a high-grade shower surround with mortar bed. Typically, we also see these 3 line items included in that type of scope of work. Please determine if it's warranted to add these or not. Right? So not only are we going to catch the potential mistakes with the overage alerts, let's not use line items that are mutually exclusive, that are just going to result in the adjuster pushing back and telling you made a mistake because you did. So let's not make mistakes and make it easy for adjusters to clown on us or push back, right? That would be helpful. And then let's also make sure we include all the line items we were supposed to include the first time, not the second time, not with the supplement later. My goodness, I have so many problems with supplements. For those of you that have explored, like, let's just supplement everything, cool. I mean, that's a strategy that does work for some, right, but it's incredibly painful on behalf of carriers to process a supplement and reopen a claim that you already closed and approved. It's incredibly painful. Maybe you don't care about carrier pain. That's okay. It's not for everybody to care about everybody else's problems. But at the same time, you want to be a good business and a good business partner. You want to talk about I think it was Eugene was talking about the importance of agents and building those referrals, right? Like we need to be friendly to carriers as well. Yep. There's not much that comes from just being outright against them. So these tools, like the Actionable profile, allow your team to write better estimates. Better estimates result in better outcomes. Better outcomes result in better testimonials, allow you to grow your business. I mean, you talk about let me ask you, Rico, when you think about all the typical roles at a contractor, from technician to project management, what to you drives revenue the most? Which role at a company? Is it sales? Is it estimating? Is it project management? What actually drives revenue the most?
I'm a bad example for
I
this
know
kind of
your
question.
business model. I know your business model a little bit, but because you outsource the majority of your estimating, correct?
Yes, we do. But I mean, I think, again, my default is the biggest driver to revenue is marketing. Because, and again, this is off topic
Fair.
maybe for this,
Yeah.
because you could have a really, really shitty company, really shitty deliverables. Your marketing is on point. You have more money than you know what to do with. You could be the best technician with the best systems, but nobody's calling you, then it doesn't matter. So that's you asked the question. That's my personal thing. It's probably not what you were looking for. But.
No. But I actually like that answer because you need marketing to generate leads. But to me, where does the money actually come from? The lead and ultimately needs a scope of work to be able to perform that work. And who's writing that scope of work?
Right.
It's your estimator.
Yep.
At the end of the day, your estimators are often your most valuable people at your company. You pay them the most. They're responsible for generating the revenue that leads your company to success or failure. If we're not investing in our estimators' ability to succeed, then we're not actually investing in our company's ability to grow and succeed in that sense. There's so much turnover when it comes to estimators as well, which I find fascinating. Everybody's got their 5 best estimates. They've got their portfolio of, dude, check out these are my 5 best estimates. Then you hire them. They work 5 jobs. All 5 jobs don't bring back money. They're all not profitable jobs. That person gets fired. You move on to the next. Wouldn't it be nice to have a tool that we know that no matter who we bring in, no matter what level of experience they have, whether the newest estimator on the block or they're the oldest dog doing it for 30 years, if I can give them a tool that makes them better every time. And we started this whole thing, Rico, by talking about, is it possible to standardize invoicing? Right. Is it possible? And I said no. Because quite frankly, especially when it comes to repair estimates, and if you talked about this as a high profit industry in general, dude, yes on the mitigation side, no on the repair side.
Right. Which is why we see a lot of people, they start doing the putback and they start doing the recon and all this stuff in the beginning, and then they're like, whoa, wait, hold on. Right, because the numbers,
a different animal.
Because again, the numbers are really attractive, right? And to some degree, maybe this is a little bit of mental motivation, but at the end of the day, you get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in recon work. Your profit margin is like this. It's been, God forbid, something goes wrong. That profit margin can go away really, really quick. So that's
and
important.
All the cash flow problems. Talking about floating out in front.
Right, and this is where now all of a sudden, if it's already a tight margin aspect of the business, on top of that, you've got user error, right? Or you forgot, whatever, you missed a line item, right? That you were possibly entitled to. Well, now you're just literally just slitting your own throat.
Yes.
And there was no need for it. And the unfortunate thing is, and again, everybody's got their role to play. I'm not criticizing anybody, but the unfortunate thing of this whole thing is that if you submit this estimate that is in fact missing 2 to 3 line items, let's keep it simple, and you get a seasoned desk adjuster, he's not going to say, hey, by the way, Rico, you're such a nice guy. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a couple of line items here we could add. Would you like to add those at this point? By the way, that'll increase your invoice by X amount of dollars. It's never happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to anybody out there, any of those dominators. It's never happened to me, and I doubt it's going to start happening now. So to have that, to me, totally makes sense. So, and what I'd like to do is kind of make a small little transition here so we can kind of wrap things up. Yeah. And I'll ask, first things first, do you have a case study or something that you can go ahead and show and kind of walk us through now, and kind of, vocalize it for those that are just listening. And then maybe what we'll do is maybe a quick little screen share for those that are watching. And if it gets too technical, no big deal. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well as in the video description below, so that way you can go on directly to restorationdomination.com and we'll go ahead and show this for you in greater detail. But while we're pulling this up, we talked a lot about the seasoned estimators and the new estimators and how this obviously makes all the sense in the world. The question is how is this going to be received on the opposite end, right? To the desk adjuster.
Yeah.
What effect does it have there?
Dude, great question. One of the number 1 power users of the Actionable profile is a carrier.
Nice.
So, dude, I'm not kidding. So what does a carrier want to do? They want to reduce administrative burden. They want to reduce the administrative spending related to processing a claim. If they have access to a tool that ensures that their estimates are warranted, and more importantly, let's say that this carrier can now take a contractor's scope of work and duplicate it into the actionable profile. And the actionable profile will audit the claim for them essentially by providing alerts and guidance that will say, hey, this is correct and this is not correct. And it's a carrier can quickly fly through compliance and auditing thanks to the actionable profile. And I think this is important to note. Actionable Insights is a 501c6. We work with both contractors and carriers. That makes us very different, Rico, because most in this industry are either contractor oriented or carrier oriented.
Correct.
It is very difficult to create a business in the niche of the gray in between the black and white that is the property insurance industry.
Right.
Well, Actionable doesn't have any enemies that I know of, which is very hard to do in this industry. But I mention this context because it's important to know what we write towards, what we build towards. We do not build the most aggressive invoicing resources out there. We want to build things that help contractors process claims fairly and profitably, as well as help carriers process things fairly and quickly. So if we can provide tools that explain what is reasonable and customary, then let the user decide to get more aggressive or less aggressive from there. That's up to them. So that's where, it doesn't matter if you are the newest estimator on the block or you've been doing it for 30 years. This is going to help guide you. And when you can present an estimate to a carrier that is sound, that is warranted, that is justified, how is that received? I mean, that was your question. How is it received? It's received warmly. It's received like, hey, man, this is a professional that knows what they're doing. Wow. If only I could work with more people that know what they're doing when it comes to writing estimates in Xactimate. That's the impression when you're writing with the actionable profile. This person knows what they're doing. If somebody knows what they're doing, it's harder to push back on them. If they have something well documented, well justified, then again, it's harder to push back on. This is where we talk about why the importance of you got to be willing to do a little bit more work up front to reduce the intangibles of the back and forth and being able to get to work into people's homes. So let's take a quick look here together. Cole Martin has joined our call. Thank you, Cole, to share his screen to talk through the actionable profile. And so I won't worry too much about the technicals. Here's the idea. When you open up Xactimate, you have the opportunity to write your scope of work. You have a sketch tab. You got to sketch the property. And then you go to the estimate items tab. This is where you start to enter the line items associated with what you're billing for. In the actionable profile, on the right side, you're going to see an inspection results drawer. This is essentially the old inspection engine we've always had when you hit complete. Like if you've ever hit complete in an Xactimate estimate, we've moved that engine from the end of this process to be live and constantly firing while you're writing your scope. So you add one line item, it's going to review, this inspection drawer is going to review that and decide what alerts potentially need to fire based on the characteristics of your estimate and the characteristics of your sketch. All right, so what Cole's done here is we've got a normal room. We've added two line items, remove a bathtub and replace a bathtub. And we have on the right side in this drawer some alerts that are popping up, actionable alerts providing us guidance for, hey, there are potential overages or omissions in play that you may need to address. Let's take a look at this top alert here in the drawer. Bathtub, replace, remove and replace, material, install only, may call for silicone caulking. So, hey, we're recognizing that silicone caulk is not included in those particular line items. Therefore, this is an additional line item that may be warranted to include that you have not included yet. Cole, go ahead and add NPR CLKS. Rico, what you're going to see is as Cole adds this line item, he's reading the alert, he's following the guidance, he's going to add the line item, and on the right side in the drawer, you're going to see, boom, the alert goes away. Why? Because you've successfully addressed it. That's the power of the live estimating guidance, Rico. Every time you use the actionable profile, it's double checking your work for you as an expert, as a mentor, and it's helping guide you towards the best possible estimate. The next alert here may warrant a 2-inch test plug, okay? Rico, I've traveled all around the country. I cannot tell you how many times I see people sticking rags, shirts, 6 mil, every time they detach a toilet, what are you sticking down there, right?
Yep.
And then, of
Yep.
course, things fall down there and you got to call a plumber to fish it out for you. And now you're down $600 for a $200 bathtub job. So it's a bit of a mess. We should probably be using compression fitted test plugs, OD test plugs and alike. They manage noxious fumes. You want to make a carrier like you, go ahead and reduce their ALE costs. Additional living expenses are more than 30% of all claims in 2021. If you can provide technology and invest in tools that help you do your job while you keep the homeowner in the home, you've got a friendly carrier on your hands that's going to go a long way.
Right.
Ideally, a homeowner that likes you too, because most people prefer to be in their own homes rather than a hotel. I think most. There's definitely the people out there that enjoy their free DoubleTree vacations on behalf of their claim.
with their cookie, right? Their
yes.
chocolate chip cookie.
Yes. So you start to see the actionable profile and how it works. You write your scope. The guidance is going to react to your scope. If you're doing the right things, you're not going to have that many alerts pop up. If you're not doing the right thing, you're going to have alerts pop up telling you you're making a mistake. We're here to guide you. And as you write every room, it's also going to check in and say, hey, we don't see these line items that are typically included in this type of scope. Double check for yourself. So what Cole's done now is he's moved to the bottom half of the drawer where we have what we call estimate alerts. These are not specific to any of the rooms that you were writing in, but this is overall alerts looking at your entire estimate, things we think you may need to include or mistakes that you may be making that you should correct before you submit it to the carrier. So here we have 20-foot moving container likely requires delivery and pickup. Okay. You've invoiced for the container related to the contents on that job, but you've not invoiced for pickup and or delivery of that particular container. How did you get it to the job site?
Right.
Right. Like this is one of those line items that is so easy to overlook because you're like, I got the container in there, next thing. I got the container in there, next thing, right? We're flying through scopes. That's what we're told
and the
to
interesting
do.
thing is, and I think that anybody who's written an estimate or had an estimate written for them, right? Like both sides of the spectrum, it doesn't really matter who it is. There's just certain things, right? That you're just moving so fast because again, like you said, it's time, it's urgency. You need to try to get it out. And to some degree, it's so easy to overlook a line item or even worse. Hey, look, what if you weren't familiar with the line item? Right?
Yes.
What if you thought that, part of that cost is already included in another line item? Happens all the time.
Line items change too, Rico. One of the most important resources. If you take anything from Actionable Insights and listening to this episode, we put out a monthly video series called the Price List Update Summary. Okay, we literally go through what new line items were added to Xactimate every month and what existing line items changed. That's, about 3 years ago, Rico, we woke up in the TMP TLT temporary toilet line item all of a sudden included delivery and pickup. For a decade before that, it never included delivery and pickup, but all of a sudden, a bunch of people woke up and felt like they were robbed of about $260 of every claim because delivery and pickup was now included in the line item. If you go talk to the pricing department, which is something that Actionable does on a regular basis, that TMP TLT line item always included delivery and pickup. It just didn't say it. And so now all of a sudden people get pissed because it now says that it includes it, which precludes them from being able to invoice for the delivery and pickup separately. So that's the other aspect that is really important for people to understand about the actionable profile. This thing's not done, nor will it ever be done because the price list continues to grow. The line items themselves change. I'm looking at the next 10-year project of my career, and Cole and I will be onboarding employees at Actionable Insights to continue to help us refine and build out the actionable profile. We're extremely proud of where it is today. Like, I think probably about 90% of the scopes that you would write as a contractor, the actionable profile will improve them in some capacity. There's less frequented areas like mobile home accessories. I'll tell you right now, Rico, there's a category of mobile home accessories. I have not written any rules for mobile home accessories. Hopefully, if you're only writing mobile home accessory claims, then I'm sorry, the actionable profile is not for you. But someday it will be.
Right.
Here's the fun part. There's something special, Rico, about building it inside of Xactimate. We can reference sketch. We can reference how many stories are in this sketch. We can reference how tall is the tall wall. Do you know how many add for line items that are related to working above 11 feet high in a room?
No, how many?
There's dozens of add for line items So essentially, if you sketch your property in the actionable profile and the ceiling is higher than 11 feet, we have alerts that start popping up that says, hey, you're working at height here. You may need these additional line items. Those are the line items that I've used and forgotten about 17 times in my career.
Right.
That if I didn't have the actionable profile reminding me every day in every scope, don't forget about these line items, don't forget about these line items, I would not be as good of an estimator if I didn't have the actionable profile actively guiding me in ways that other people can't.
Totally makes sense. So I'm sold, right? So now let's
fair.
Right. So I'm sold because again, for me, tech, like that's the beauty of tech. I mean, what a time to be alive, right? Like to have people that have been able to identify a crucial need that are neutral, right? Because like you said, no enemies, right? You're just trying to create a better product, a better experience on both sides, right? Because if I'm using this tool and it's making me just an amazing estimator, person on the opposite end is looking at this amazing estimate, they're going to start going through it with a fine-tooth comb and assuming that everything is in fact justified. You did your sketch right. Maybe you got your Matterport, whatever the case may be. I mean, you got your pictures to support everything that you did and that you didn't do, and each line item that is supposed to be corresponding, they're all in there. Well, it's like, all of a sudden it's like, where are you punching holes now? Because if there's, and I'm assuming if there's overages and stuff that shouldn't be on the estimate, we're probably going to get some alerts there too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the whole point. I mean, you're not going to make mistakes and you're going to include all the line items you should be including.
Right.
You could look at it as, I didn't include the line items. That's a mistake. Sure. I'm talking about you're using line items that are not intended to be used together, that every single time you do that, it's going to cost you time and money when the carrier pushes back. You're not going to make those mistakes anymore.
Right, which is beautiful. So now all of a sudden I'm getting my time back. I'm producing better estimates. I'm getting that constant coaching in a way, right? This AI coaching, which again, anybody who's heard the show knows that I'm huge on coaching, huge on mentors, and huge on any kind of technology that can fill in those gaps. So great. So I'm sold 100%. Right now, the question is, how does it work as far as, cost? Is it cost effective? Like, how does this look? Like if a company wants to start implementing this, how do they do it?
So the way you enable the actionable profile, we essentially do it on an instance basis, or basically a company-wide basis. We have to work with Verisk's infrastructure, which I said the word Verisk infrastructure and half of the people just started tuning out. I get it. Here's the thing. You want to turn on the actionable profile and make all of your estimators better. We have to turn it on for everybody at once. It costs $162 per month per person. Okay. It's an all you can eat product, a buffet. So if you write one estimate a month or 700 estimates a month, you can write them all in the actionable profile for $162 a month. Now, Cole here is going to be the man that you contact with. He's doing all the sales calls, all the account management. One thing that we did coming out of the beta when we publicly launched the actionable profile is we've offered a 99% off the first month. So instead of $162 a person per month, it's $1.62. Rico, it's going to cost you $10 at most to get your team onboarded and in there to check it out for the first month. That's what we figured people need. People need 30 days to be able to write their estimates, see the impact of the profile. You should honestly take 90 days to really pilot test this thing, so then you can see the impact of collections and negotiations and back and forth, right? Am I actually able to create better estimates, whatever that means to you? If that means less mistakes, if that means more warranted line items, or a combination of both. Am I able to negotiate less? Am I able to get to work faster? Am I able to increase my cash flow as a result? Like, do the problems that have nagged restoration businesses go away when I write better estimates that aren't full of mistakes and include all the warranted line items? That's what it's going to cost you to come in and check it out. $1.62 per person. After that, $162 a month. Cole's going to be the arbiter of all things there. So if you want to strike any cool special deals, he's the guy you got to talk to.
Cool. So, and I think that we have, right, which is the special offer that we have right now, which there is going to be a link in the video description below, as well as in the show notes. So make sure that you don't miss out on that. It's going to take you directly over to the site with a calendar. You can go ahead and book your time if you want to go ahead and get a demo, correct? Right, Cole? They can spend a little bit of time with you and, get their questions answered, which I think that we've covered like 99.9%. I mean, honestly, like if I'm listening to this myself, trying to put myself in a neutral position, position, I'd just be calling so that you can take my money and set me up. Like
it's going to cost you $2 a person to set up, and go check it out. Like, it's actively making every estimate your team creates better. Like, it's Rico, it's one of those things that I don't have to sell, but occasionally I have to talk about. And ideally it sells itself, because it's like, would you like your team to write better estimates? Every single person says yes. What does that 100%. Cost to you? What is that worth? What is that worth to you for your team to be better at what they do?
And the question that I would ask myself, being honest with myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always playing devil's advocate. It's like, what would I ask myself? Because do I really want to take on a cost of an additional $162 a month? The answer to that would be no. 100%, right? We don't want to spend
at first glance.
Right. But now the question that I would really ask myself is, does the possibility exist that throughout a 30-day time frame, a month's worth of me estimating, is it possible that I'm leaving more than $162 on the table when I'm writing my estimates? And look, I think I'm a pretty cocky guy.
Yeah, sure. We all are. There's a lot of ego in this industry.
But you know what? I mean, my answer would be 100. Of course, I'm leaving $162 on the table.
Yes.
Right. I'm probably leaving a lot more than that. Right. So why not? Like, this is one of those things where it's like money in causes money out. Right. It's like you're getting your money to grow for you. And I know that you guys are in a very neutral position. It's not all about profitability for the contractor. Let's call a spade, right? Like, I'm a contractor. So that's one of the things that I care about. And if profitability, and people get this confused, and we talked about it before, profitability is not a bigger invoice. It's how much time are you saving? How confident are you? Are you eliminating some of the banter back and forth? All of these things are going to contribute to your increased profitability. To me, it's it's a no-brainer. Restoration Dominators, make sure that you check out that link. It's an insane offer. You get to test drive it. I'm more than positive that anybody I believe genuinely this is going to be one of the industry standards that is going to be catching on very, very quickly.
Let me jump in here to say, by the way, we are not the only company that will have access to this drawer. And if you're using Xactimate, this drawer is the future of Xactimate. So you can either explore it now with the beneficial guidance that Actionable has to offer, making every estimate better, or it will likely come to you in the form of TPA carrier work or alike in the future, whether you like it or not. So you have the opportunity now to explore it with the benefits of a fun nonprofit educational company that's here to make you better, or it can be forced upon you in the future in ways that we like and don't like because of processing claims. By the way, the URL that people need to go check out is value.getinsights.org/dominate. That's the place where you can come in, hang out with Cole. We'll set you up. We might even recommend a few other episodes of this podcast that we think you should also listen to.
Awesome. Cool. So as for any closing thoughts, any closing notes, how to go ahead and get in contact, we've kind of already covered that, because again, you're going to be getting in contact with Cole. You got a direct calendar link there. Make sure that we just obnoxiously blow up his calendar. That'd be amazing.
I would love that. Yeah. Final thoughts. At Actionable, all we've ever tried to do is help people fall in love with their jobs again. We build tools and we build estimating resources that make that a possibility. The fun part about it is that it actually results in better estimates and better outcomes on behalf of your own employees, the customers you serve, and the carriers you work with. This is a win-win for everybody. You just got to decide for yourself, is this something that's going to be of value to me every day in my team? And thankfully, Rico's hooking us all up with a chance to onboard at almost no cost to be able to determine for yourselves, does this solution solve my problems?
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to help us dominate and just share all of this. Dominators out there, as per usual, you know that it's all about hustling, hacking, dominating, and me providing you with the absolute best and hottest trends that I believe have the ability to go ahead and change your business. Off camera earlier today, I was expressing to Harrison here how when I first got into the business, part of the reason why we started the podcast in the beginning is I wish that I had an in, that I knew where to get information from that was fresh, that could actually impact my business. And everything that we do here at Restoration Domination is really genuinely geared towards that, to make you a better entrepreneur so that you're making more money, so that you are more fulfilled, so that you're not beating your head up against the ground. And this is, in my opinion, one of those solutions. I hope that you enjoy. We'll catch you guys on the next show.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.